كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ. Prescribed for you when death approaches any one of you. Now, another command is being given. And what is prescribed? In taraka khayran, if he leaves wealth, al-wasiyya, that he should make a bequest. A bequest for who? لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. A bequest for the parents and near relatives according to what is acceptable, and this is حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ, a duty upon the righteous. Now, this ayah is talking about making a will, a bequest, that a person should make it before they die. And this ayah is abrogated in one way and not abrogated in another way. How is that so? It is abrogated in the sense that that initially this ayah was revealed, and then later on the ayat regarding mirath, regarding inheritance, were revealed, which are in Surah An-Nisa, in which we learn that a person cannot choose how much should go to their parents and other relatives, because the legal heirs and their legal shares have been fixed. They have been appointed by Allah. And the details of that are in Surah An-Nisa. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ أَعْطَى كُلَّ ذِي حَقٍّ حَقَّهُ فَلَا وَصِيَّةَ لِوَارِثٍ. That Allah has given every deserver of right his right, meaning for every relative that deserves inheritance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed a portion. So a person cannot make a will in the favor of an heir. So in that sense, this ayah is abrogated, because in this ayah, a person is being told to, make a bequest for the parents. Well, the parents' share has been fixed. Near relatives, again, the shares of the relatives have been fixed. So in one way, the ayah is abrogated. But in another way, the ayah is not abrogated. How? Because in certain cases, we see that parents, such as one's adoptive parents, not biological, adoptive parents, or an aunt who is like a mother, or grandparents, do not get a legal share. So a person must make a will in their favor so they get something. And then we see that there are other relatives, such as siblings or nephews and nieces, who also do not always get a share of inheritance, because we see that the presence of certain relatives, like for example, if a person has a child, then their presence will block the shares of other relatives. So in such cases, what should a person do? A person should make a will in favor of those relatives. But remember that the wasiyah, the will, can only be up to a third of one's estate, not more than that. And even a third, the Prophet ﷺ described as kathir, as a lot. So it is better to give less than a third, meaning a person should only make a will of less than a third of their wealth. Why has this allowance been made? We see that, in certain matters, we don't have a choice, right? We don't get to choose our heirs or their portions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has fixed that. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also given us some freedom, that up to a third of your wealth, you can give to non-heirs. And this is a gift from Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ described this as a means of ziyadatan lakum fi a'malikum, a means of increasing in your deeds, meaning a means of increasing in your reward. Because it is like a charity, a gift. And remember that when you give a gift, for example, to a good friend, to someone who has done ihsan to you, like for example adoptive parents, or an aunt who has cared for you, a nephew in whom you sense a lot of good potential, a righteous cause, then the reward will continue to come for you after your death even. So from your wealth, in summary, what we learn is that from your wealth, that your estate basically will be divided according to the law of inheritance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. And that law of inheritance is such that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed the heirs and the legal heirs and their legal shares. However, a person has a choice that before they die, they make a wasiyah, they make a will. And that will can only be in the favor of who? Non-heirs, not legal heirs, non-heirs. Who are they? For example, adoptive parents, or for example, a distant relative, someone who, because of the presence of certain relatives, they don't get a share of inheritance, or, a righteous cause, a noble cause. So when you do that, when you make a will in favor of that, then this is a means of increasing in reward. So a person should spend, from their wealth in their life in righteous causes, and for after they have died, they should leave a will. Then it is clarified that فَمَنْ بَدَّلَهُ بَعْدَمَا سَمِعَهُ فَإِنَّمَا إِثْمُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يُبَدِّلُونَهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Then whoever alters the bequest after he has heard it, the sin is only upon those who have altered it. Indeed, Allah is hearing and knowing. And this means that a will basically cannot be changed. A will cannot be changed by the heirs. For example, a person makes a will that that an eighth of my estate should be given to my nephew. All right. And now the will is with who? With the son. But what does the son do? He changes the will. How? That he either hides it, or he erases the name of the nephew. He erases that line completely. He changes the name of the nephew. So whoever changes a will after knowing it, then its sin is on the people who change the will, who alter the will. Inna Allah Sami'un Alim. Indeed, Allah is hearing and knowing. You can hide from people, but you cannot hide from Allah. فَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ مُوصٍ جَنَفًا أَوْ إِثْمًا فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. But if one fears from the bequeather some error or sin and corrects that which is between them, there is no sin upon him. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. Because sometimes what happens is that people do leave unfair wills. For example, a person makes a will that all of their estate should be given to their one son, nothing for their daughters, or that all of it should go in charity, nothing for their family or their children. So when an unjust will has been left, then what should people do? What should the heirs do? They should alter it. They should change it. Why? Because the will is unfair. The person, the deceased, made a mistake. So you cannot perpetuate the crime. You have to fix the error. And this needs to be done even if a long time has gone by. You see, in certain cultures, women are not given any share of inheritance. People think that, when our daughter got married, we got her a whole lot of gold jewelry we spent on her wedding. And so that was her share of inheritance. And now when it comes to our property, our money, that will go to our sons. This is not correct. This is a cultural concept. This is un-Islamic. Your inheritance is what is inherited by your family after you have passed away, from the wealth that you leave behind. What you gave in your life as a gift was a gift. That is not inheritance. Inheritance is what is divided after the death of a person. So if people have made such errors, like, for example, you realize that someone in your family made such an error, your parents or your grandparents, then you as children, as grandchildren, it's your responsibility to do islah, to make the correction, to not, let that sin continue. فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ. Brothers, men who have inherited all of their parents' wealth, what should they do? They should give the rights of their sisters to them. They should not keep it all with them that, oh, what can I do? This is what my parents did. No, now you have learned, you have found out that this was unfair, this was wrong. This is something that contradicts the command of Allah. So you have to be just over here. We learned that a man who had 6 slaves, and that was all of his property. What he did is that just before his death, he set them all free. And what that would mean is that basically his heirs have nothing. So when the Prophet ﷺ found out, he actually called the slaves, and he basically divided them into the rightful heirs. And the Prophet ﷺ spoke very severely of the man who made this mistake. So if people make such a mistake, then it is our responsibility to fix that mistake. So remember, bir, righteousness, piety is not just in doing salah and nothing else. No, you do salah, but you also have to make sure that there is financial justice, that you are following the commands of Allah regarding money also. Then it is said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have believed, kutiba alaykumus siyam, decreed upon you is fasting, kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, as it was decreed upon those before you. Why has this been decreed? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that you may become righteous. Sawm, fasting, is an act of servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in which a person refrains from certain things. A person avoids certain things, namely food, drink, and sexual relations from Fajr until sunset. And this practice of self-restraint or avoidance is for the approval of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And since it is very effective in the purification of the soul, we see in this ayah that it was obligated on the previous nations also. It develops taqwa in a person, which is the foundation of good deeds, of good character. So fasting has been made obligatory. Fasting, in the words of the Prophet ﷺ, is fardun mujzi'un. It is an obligation that will suffice a person in the hereafter. And it is a very unique act of worship. فَإِنَّهُ لَا عِدْلَ لَهُ. There is nothing like it. That has no equivalent. And it is a junnah. It is a shield from the fire of hell. It's also a shield against sin. It is a door to goodness among abwab al-khair, the doors of goodness, meaning it is a means of doing a lot of good. And when a person fasts with faith and with expectation of reward, then all of his past sins are forgiven. And when a person fasts for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, with sincerity, we see that the reward for fasting is so great that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِنَّهُ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. It is for me and I will give reward for it. Because while a person is fasting, they're constantly observing patience. And it's a very private deed between the slave and the Lord, meaning only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows whether you're really fasting or not. So remember, the purpose of fasting is not to make us physically weak. It is not to hinder our productivity. It is for the purpose of spiritual gain. There is, of course, reward for fasting, but fasting produces taqwa. As we see, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So taqwa is the goal. That fasting protects us. It saves us from what? From hell. And it also saves us from sin. Because while you're fasting, you're constantly refusing yourself. So it is an exercise of refusal, right? You're constantly saying no to yourself. You're building resilience. You're building inner strength. And you need that inner strength to be able to leave sin, to be able to do what is right, and also to be able to say no to people who invite you to what is wrong. So fasting is an obligation, but this is not just, to torture us. No, it has its benefits. And then it is mentioned, أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَاتٍ, fasting for a limited number of days. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. So whoever among you is ill or on a journey, then an equal number of days. So we see here that fasting is obligatory. And at the beginning, it was only obligatory on Ashura. And then in the second year after Hijrah, fasting in Ramadan was made obligatory. And the fasting of Ashura was made optional. And then we see that an allowance is also given. You see, at times there is a temporary condition because of which a person is not able to fast. Like, for example, a person is traveling, or they're unwell, or a woman is menstruating. Then in these cases, what should a person do? They should make up their missed fasts later on in the year. And this is mentioned very clearly that so whoever among you is ill or on a journey, then an equal number of days, meaning make up those missed fasts later on in the year. And this teaches us a beautiful principle of our religion, which is al-mashaqqatu tajlibu taysir, that difficulty begets ease. When things are hard, then allowances are given. So when a person is ill then they can not fast in the month of Ramadan, they can make up the fasts later. But this is not just every illness. Like, for example, a person has a headache, so they say, well, I'm not going to fast. No. When it comes to illness, sometimes illness is such that fasting can delay recovery. Why? Because if you don't take your medication on time 3 times a day, then that means that your road to recovery will be longer, right? So you need to take that medication. So fasting could possibly delay the recovery, or fasting could worsen the condition, or at times fasting can even cause death, right? So in all such cases, a person is allowed to not fast and they can make up the fast later. When it comes to travel, regardless of how long or short the journey is, whether it is by plane or by foot, whether you are, the trip is for business or for visiting family, it doesn't matter, because travel in and of itself is a reason for a person to not fast, if they choose to not fast, meaning a person has the option. Anas radiallahu anhu said that we used to travel with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and neither did the fasting persons criticize those who were not fasting, nor did those who were not fasting criticize those who were fasting. Meaning some people chose to fast and other people chose to not fast. Then it is said, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. And upon those who are able, meaning to fast, then what should they do? They should give a fidya, a ransom. And what is that ransom? طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, feeding a person in need. Now, this is understood in a number of ways. One interpretation is that here basically people are being given an option, that those who are able to fast but choose not to fast, then they can simply give the fidya. And this choice was actually at the beginning, but later on it was abrogated by the obligation of fasting. Later on it became mandatory to fast. And another interpretation of this ayah is that this is referring to those who are only able to fast with extreme difficulty because of their long-term condition or their invisible condition, their invisible illness. Like, for example, if a person is old, right? If a person is old, then they may be able to fast, but fasting can be extremely difficult upon them. Why? Because their body has become more frail. It has become more weak. You could say that, well, you're not sick, right? You're not on any medication. You must fast. No, the weakness is invisible, right? It's the old age which makes fasting extremely difficult for them. Sometimes there's a chronic health issue, right? Or, for example, a person, is diabetic, or a person has an eating disorder, or even pregnancy and childbirth, right? So in these cases, a person may be able to fast, but with extreme difficulty. And especially when it comes to, a woman who is pregnant or, is nursing, then what happens is that fasts of 1 year after another year after another year are piled up. So how is a woman able to make up over 100 fasts, sometimes 200 fasts? And even in that, there is a difference of opinion. Some say that she should make them up, and others say that no, this is based on the opinion of certain companions, that this is under this part of the ayah, that it is not possible for her to fast during pregnancy. It is not possible for her to fast, while she's nursing. And if, she is obligated to make up the fasts later, then this would be impossible for her, or it would cause a lot of difficulty, because how is she able to, have the strength to look after her children and then fast in the Ramadan of the year that she is in and make up the missed fasts of that Ramadan? There's too much. And it's not possible for her to make up the missed fasts before the next Ramadan. And it is not possible that a person is given 2 fines, that they give the fidya and they also have to make fasts, or they're giving the fidya. There's no double penalty. There's only going to be a single penalty. So in this case, where the condition is long term, or it is invisible, because of which a person, they could fast technically, but with extreme hardship. So in this case, what should be done? فَفِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. Then there's a ransom, which is feeding a needy, meaning for every fast, feeding a person in need. فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ. And whoever volunteers excess, it is better for him. Meaning the minimum is that you give one meal or you feed one person in need. But if you want to do more than that, you want to double it, you want to triple it, however, then that is better for you. There is no limit in doing good. Be generous. And then it is said, وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. But to fast is better for you. إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. If you only knew. So for example, a person who has, for instance, reached the age of 60, they should not just assume that, oh, I'm 60 now, I shouldn't be fasting. No, give it a try. You never know, because of fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the energy, because of the blessing of you trying to do something good. You might increase in your health and in your strength. A woman who is nursing or is expecting, and she shouldn't just assume that, oh, I'm allowed to not fast. She should at least try. Likewise, if a woman is nursing, and if she's not able to fast every day, at least every other day, وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. At least try, because fasting is better for you. And when it comes to, making up the fasts later, in the case of temporary condition, then we see that even though it's perfectly fine, but you will experience this, that fasting in the month of Ramadan is way easier than trying to make up the fasts later on at another time of the year. So وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. Then it is said, شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ. The month of Ramadan is that in which was revealed the Quran. هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ, a guidance for the people. وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى, and clear proofs of guidance. وَالْفُرْقَانِ, and criterion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the month of Ramadan for fasting. Why? Because it is a very special month. In it, we receive the greatest gift, the Quran, without which we would be lost. We would be in ignorance. We would not know the difference between right and wrong, good and evil. So to celebrate the blessing of the Quran, what do? We fast in the month of Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the month of Ramadan to be the month of fasting. And it is mentioned here that the month of Ramadan is that in which the Quran was revealed. So remember that the revelation of the Quran began in the month of Ramadan. So the month of Ramadan is not just the month of fasting. It is also the month of the Quran. So we see that Jibreel alayhi salam would meet the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam every night in the month of Ramadan and review the Quran with him. So we should also make it a point that in Ramadan, we recite the Quran. We listen to the Quran, especially in the nights of Ramadan, because the night is the best time for Quran recitation. It is a time of focus. It is a time of sincerity. It is a time of closeness to Allah. So Ramadan is for fasting, and Ramadan is also with the Quran, a month of the Quran. And this way, Ramadan becomes a month for all believers, those who are able to fast, and also those who are not able to fast. Then it is said, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. So whoever sights the new moon of the month, then let him fast it. Meaning, fasting should only begin after the moon has been sighted. فَلْيَصُمْهُ وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. And whoever is ill or on a journey, then an equal number of other days. Why? Why is this facilitation given? And it's repeated again, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ. Allah intends for you ease and does not intend for you hardship, and wants for you to complete the period. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the ways to His approval easy for us. We see that the obligation of fasting itself is easy. And fasting is something that is doable. It is not something that would kill a person. And if we are to fast, the obligatory fasting is only in the month of Ramadan, not all year round. And even then, if because of a temporary condition a person is not able to fast, they can make up the number of missed fasts later on in the same year. And if a person is not able to fast at all, then they give the fidya, so they don't lose out on the reward. Subhanallah, yuridullahu bikumul yusr. Allah wants ease for you. Allah does not want hardship for you. But وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةِ, you should also complete the period, meaning complete the number of fasts. So for example, if the month of Ramadan of a particular year was of 29 days, and let's say a person missed two fasts, then they should make up two fasts later. If the month of Ramadan was of 30 days and they missed three fasts, they should make up three fasts later. So, وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةِ, must complete the number. وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, and to glorify Allah for that to which He has guided you, and perhaps you will be grateful. See, when you complete something good, when you reach the end of Ramadan, when you have, kept all of these fasts, then what is the etiquette that we're taught over here? Glorify Allah, mention His greatness. And this is why on Eid day, after the month of fasting and worship, we say Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar, Walillahi alhamd. We say the takbirat. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, and thank Allah, be grateful to Allah that, Ya Allah, you enabled us to fast. You enabled us to worship you. And remember, when a person is grateful, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him the ability to do more good.